The new Labour says, let's fill the dome. Nah, we don't like it. It's like the comedy Little Britain. With that little chap in the wheelchair. He really does symbolise and signify the British people. They want him, but they're not sure. Put it over there. I don't like it over there. They're not sure about what they want. They love you for the first day, they laud you for the next day, and then they hate you the next. When Tony Blair came to power, we love you, Tony. We love you. Now look at Tony. Spice Girls, like fighting. I'm a Spice Girl. Then it goes. I mean, there's a contradiction. The French are not like that. The French have an arrogance about what they do. They make something, they step back and they say, oh, masterpiece. And then all the other French step back and say, he's a French. But the British build something I don't like, even whilst it's being built, I don't like it. Wembley Stadium, they open something, there's something wrong with the stadium. So it is the same with everything about the British.
Mr. Speaker, the French did nothing for their colonies. They left them with a dump. The British did a bit. The French did nothing.
The French did nothing for their colonies. All colonies did fuck all for their colonies. They did something for their host country. But let me add this. Let me add this, please. In all that we have said today, in all of the condemnation of what we have said, I believe I'm actually a patriot. Because I believe that by speaking out, by condemning the ills in the society, that hopefully it will put some dignity and justice. The people will stand up and hopefully reclaim Britain, not for what it was, but for what it can be. My friends, I tell you, I am actually proud to be British. And you won't hear me saying that too often. In fact, let me tell you this. Being black or being an immigrant in Britain, you are actually much better off than anywhere else in Europe. So the British treat you better in Britain.
You think so?
Sorry? Maybe. The Netherlands, Holland, Germany. When I go to Holland, I see some blacks, I see the Africans, I see them mostly. Where's the business opportunity? You know, I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm saying it's terrible. But I'm saying we need to build upon what we have. And so when you look at the world, when you look at the US, when you look at this outgoing Prime Minister, this outgoing Prime Minister, Tony Blair, we ask ourselves, what will be Blair's legacy? The Iraq War. He would love it to be Northern Ireland. Imagine, let me just tell you this. Tony Blair, excluding Iraq, would have been the most successful British Prime Minister this country has probably ever had. And that's a bold statement. You hear me? Beyond Iraq. Now I know many of you may have different ideological problems, and I have different ideological problems with Blair. And we might say, well, look at the top-up team and all these other issues, the academies. I have issues with it, but I'm saying, pound for pound, beyond the Iraq War, there would not be this furor that there is in this country. If you ask the people why don't they like Tony Blair, they don't trust him, he's kind of slimy, he's dishonest. Where did these lies begin to surface? When? The lies didn't begin to surface after the Iraq War. The lies began to surface when he took office. It's not new. Tony Blair came to power saying that he was going to revive the Labour Party because the Labour Party at that point in time was unelectable according to him and according to the wide majority of voters in this country. They were unelectable. They were leftists without a leftist ideology. And they're still fucking leftists, many of the people now, without an ideology. Left-wing politics in Britain is dead. Socialism needs to be revamped. Why do I say this? You're fucking clapping. Are you from the left? From the right?
From the right.
From the right. I thought as much. So fuck you. Yours don't count. I don't want to gratify or validate right-wing politics.
You might be wrong, Mr. Speaker.
The issue, my friend, the issue is this. Left-wing politics died because there were no intellectual, ideological thinkers with which to revamp and revitalize the left-wing politics, as you see happening right now in Latin America. Look at Latin America. Latin America has begun to take forward the model of socialism. You have Hugo Chavez, who adopted a Bolivarian revolution. You have Fidel Castro, who took the revolution of Jose Marti forward. But the revolution has been revived. What has Hugo Chavez done? Hugo Chavez has embraced the revolutionary left-wing socialist politics of Fidel Castro and embraced it with free market economics. So he still allows a plurality of the media in the media. In fact, it was the mainstream media who tried to overthrow him in 2003, backed by the US. Look at it. So you see the revolution mutating. What you see is this. Why America has always tried to suppress communism or socialist ideology is because there is something in the CIA doctrine which reads the threat of a good example. So what you must do is put down anything that might be a good example to others. So now that the Americans have begun to focus upon Iraq, the example of Fidel Castro and Cuba's revolution has become to be making an example throughout Latin America. The very factors that the US were fearful of. Throughout the 60s, when you saw left-wing politics from Cuba spreading, because socialism and the ideals of socialism was the belief that you cannot have socialism in isolation. You can only have global socialism, and then it becomes a working entity. Fidel Castro tried this in Jamaica in the 70s. Look at Jamaica. Look at the foundations as to how Jamaica, when Jamaica became violent. Jamaica was a peaceful country. My father grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, waterfront. Peaceful country. Not the reputation that it has today. But in the 70s, what we had was Michael Manley, the Prime Minister of Jamaica from the PNP, People's National Party, and Fidel Castro forming a union as Michael Manley was socialist. You had Fidel Castro building schools in Jamaica, sending over doctors for Jamaica. It wasn't only Jamaica he was doing this. Anyone with a socialist ideology who wanted to support. What has Castro done now? Has he waved? No! He did the same thing for Angola in the 70s and in the 80s. They assisted Mozambique. They assisted Guinea. They assisted Grenada. Not with hospitals. In Grenada, they were just building an airport so that Grenada could open up to tourism and become self-sufficient. Who can condemn that? But the West called him communist. In Jamaica, he built a large school which still exists in Spanish Town. They were building schools, building hospitals, helping train doctors, teachers. And because Fidel Castro formed a relationship with Michael Manley, America said, look at Jamaica, they're going to become communists. So they began to flood the JLP, Jamaican Labour Party, with guns. The Jamaican Labour Party began training militias who would then murder PNP supporters simply because they're working in a certain area and backed by a PNP MP. That's when the death squad started. And when there's no control on the street, then the PNP begins to arm its factions. So then they begin to fight, so a civil war exists. And let me tell you something about the violence that's spread around the world when you're talking about yardie this and yardie that.